MySpace, does that still even exist? Some people may still have an account, I guess. They've got to be dormant. All this social media stuff, and of course, they tell us in radio you should get involved in it. So I do not have MySpace. I've got Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google Plus, I think it's called. Oh, Instagram. There's a couple of, I lose track of them all. And yet, during the day, I spend a lot of time just hitting sending things there, items that people might be interested in. Coming up on 9:33, Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. It's 35. Tomorrow morning between 8:30 and 9 o'clock, we're talking about concussions, causes of concussions, treatment of concussions. We're doing that with Dr. Jonathan Tripp from Tripp Family Medicine. Every Wednesday morning, the doctor or a member of his staff joins us in studio between 8:30 and 9 o'clock, and we have these discussions, and we break it up into different health issues. But if you have a question or comment, and you have a question about your health, you're always welcome to call the doctor while he's in studio. He'll dispense a little advice, point you in the right direction, and it might be quite helpful. We should also point out he's also always looking for new patients, and they'll see patients very quickly at his office, usually anywhere, sometimes on the same day to the next day. So there's no long wait before you get in to actually, have someone check out whatever is ailing you. Want to remind you that Better Health is brought to you by Tripp Family Medicine right here in Twin Falls, Idaho on Fillmore Street, directly across from the main post office. And the doctor likes to remind you life's too short not to feel good. I'm holding here a story. Well, it's actually, I guess, what you call an op-ed piece by Julie Kelley and Jeff Steyer. And this is from today's edition of the Wall Street Journal. They got a cool little picture here. Illustration is of a plate with two sunny side up eggs. My favorite way to eat eggs, by the way, or, over easy, except I have to go out and eat them at a diner because I usually break the yolks, and it's not one of my skills. It's not one of my specialties is cooking eggs. So you've got these two eggs that look like eyes sitting on a plate, and then you've got a piece of bacon, and it looks like it's frowning. I'm holding it up to the camera here. We do have a camera in here because I do occasionally post YouTube videos of the shows. I could hold it up to the microphone, but that just wouldn't do much good. The climate agenda behind the bacon scare. The widely publicized warning about meat, the subheadline reads, isn't about health, it's about fighting global warming. And the writers say vegans are in full party mode and the media is in a feeding frenzy. With United Nations climate talks beginning in a few weeks in Paris, the cancer warning seems well timed. The report largely addresses only one cancer, colorectal, while making passing mention of other cancers like stomach and prostate, yet evidence linking red meat and colorectal cancer is unconvincing. The authors write that positive associations were seen with high versus low consumption of red meat in half of those studies. Hardly enough conclusive evidence to justify a stern cancer warning. And then I actually took a piece of, I took a pen and I outlined a paragraph on page 3 of this. And this, I think, is probably more telling. The case against processed meat, the writer says, is dubious too. According to the IARC report, each 50-gram portion of processed meat eaten daily increases the risk of colorectal cancer by 18%. You go, wow, gee, that sounds terrible. The writers then say that might sound scary, but the absolute risk is what really matters. As an example, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has an estimate that 2% of 40-year-olds will develop colorectal cancer over the next 30 years of their lives. What the IARC study suggests is a slightly higher rate, say 2.4% over 30 years, for those 40-year-olds who tear through a 16-ounce package of bacon every week without fail. I've had a friend, he's close to 70 now. This guy has been eating bacon and eggs every morning all of his life. Now, it comes down to your genetics. That plays a huge role in it and the like. But he seems fine. I mean, his health has never been in serious question. He was always one of the guys in best shape at work when we worked together for many, many years. So, they're throwing out these numbers, but as you grow older, those numbers are going higher anyway, and the difference really is non-existent between all of this. What they don't want you doing, and this is the whole point of this, they don't want you eating beef. They're trying to discourage you, so they frighten you by saying you're going to get cancer and die. That way, they can shut down beef operations and pig farms because they say that the methane is causing global warming. A friend of mine who runs a science museum and is a scientist, he likes to tell me it's water vapor. It's not about carbon or methane. It's water vapor that will cause global warming. And they would like to shut all of these farms down, and the goal being that they can then just have everyone sit around and eat black beans and alfalfa sprouts. They feel they can better feed the world that way. So all of this is just masking their other nefarious goals. 9:37, I have a caller with us. You're up next. You're on the air with Bill Colley on KLIX.
Good morning, Bill. What cracks me up about this whole Christmas and Halloween thing is that Christmas is strictly a pagan holiday, just like Halloween, only Christmas is dressed up in Christianity. But these people hate Christianity so bad that they've gone full circle to trying to destroy their own holidays.
Well, of course, now we had to sign a date, pretty much no one knew. I think it's the March is the best guess when Jesus was born. But one way you could sell it to pagans was to sell it to them during their other ceremonies and co-opt them and help them come to the faith that way. I understand how all of that works. But again, if you don't like a Christmas tree, or what was the school in Texas a few years ago? They barred napkins in December that were red and green because the school district said the superintendent, another one of these geniuses running one of our educational institutions, said that those were Christmas colors. I don't know. I've got clothes that are those colors, and I wear them year round. There's a hockey team out of Minnesota that wears the same colors, and yet no one says, "Oh, that's the Christmas team."
Yeah, I don't celebrate Christmas or Halloween, but I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. But I'm not telling anybody not to that think they should.
Right.
That's their business and nobody else's.
Yeah, and I've got friends who in the home church movement, they don't necessarily celebrate Christmas. That's a day for church. Then they have all of their gift giving and celebrations on New Year's Day. And if they'd like to do that, I'm fine with that. I think that that's a wonderful idea. They have gift giving on New Year's Day as a celebration of the new year. And they reserve Christmas for, they have a meal, obviously a feast, but they reserve it mainly for church and prayer. And I'm fine with that. But the left would like to stamp out anything that resembles, even on the periphery, resembles religious faith. And that's why celebrations such as Christmas are under such what you'd call furious attack all the time.
Yeah, I guess that's what they could call me, a home church movement, I guess. But I've heard people call me preterist and all kinds of things. But, I just believe in Christ. I believe in the Word of God. I think it's the absolute truth, and that's the way it is.
Because God is absolute. I thank you much for the telephone call, sir. Good hearing from you. Short break coming up. They've all been somewhat short for me this morning. The day, can I tell you something? And maybe it's too much information, but I drink a lot of water on the air, and commercial breaks sometimes are very welcome. But if they're short commercial breaks, the bathroom is on the other side of the building. So by the end of the show, I'm doing my impersonation of Walter Winchell, jumping up and down on 2 feet. Well, there's the back door, I suppose. One of my favorite times of year, of course. We also sometimes it gets lost now because Halloween has become such a huge blowout. When I was a kid, it was a vastly different type of thing. You got a bucket or a bag, and you went out and you collected some candy in the neighborhood, and then my mom would throw most of it out after a couple of days. Now it's billions and billions of dollars are spent by people because marketers realized, hey, we can make a big buck here. I do want to point out that because of that, I was looking at those Christmas decorations going up in stores long before the end of Halloween, and everyone notices that. I mean, we're not bringing up anything new here. We're just reviving that complaint. But Thanksgiving is a wonderful, wonderful American holiday, and there are some people who are trying to put Thanksgiving out of business because we're giving thanks to our Creator, and that bothers them. I guess, we could say we're giving thanks to the boss who helped provide the feast, or if you're on the dole, to the government that helped provide the feast, but you're giving thanks to God. That's what thanks. I have a friend in England, and he says that's the one thing that he really longs for. He said that the United States and Canada both have a Thanksgiving Day, and they don't. And he said, everything I read and hear about your Thanksgiving Day, he said, is lovely. And to me, it is, next to the 4th of July, it's the greatest. Independence Day, as a friend of mine reminds me, it's 4th of July is just the date. It is the greatest secular holiday. It's a tremendous thing. I love this time of year, though, because we have such great things we give thanks for with all the great food around. I have a freezer now that is filled with meats. This time of year, that was the way we grew up. You had things that came out of the harvest season or hunting season. And speaking of that, High Desert Meat Processing processes one animal at a time. What you bring in is what you're going to get back. Darren Van Horn, owner of High Desert Meat Processing, right here in Twin Falls, Idaho. He's got more than 30 years' experience in the meat business. You can visit High Desert Meat Processing on Facebook, and they have reviews of customers. And I'll tell you what, they all say that Darren is grade A. Give High Desert Meat Processing a telephone call for all of your wild game and domestic processing needs, 734-9949. High Desert Meat does in-house smoking. Nothing gets shipped out. Specialty meats, jerky, pepperoni, salami, summer sausage, kielbasa, breakfast sausage, brats, Polish dogs, hot dogs, and much more. USDA approved. Darren works closely with local beef growers as well and their programs to ensure quality meat. The telephone number is 734-9949. Speaking of telephone numbers, if you'd like to reach our program today, 736-0300. I've got a tickle in my throat today, and that might be one of the reasons I don't mind the telephone calls. 736-0300 gives me a moment to swallow or have a little bit of water in between. Steve Millington as well. I thought his voice sounded like he might have had the same type of thing going on. When I go into the grocery store, I grab those wipes and I wipe off my hands and I wipe off the grocery cart. I wipe off edges of the grocery cart. And if it's a cart that may have had a kid in it, I wipe all around where a kid may have been because, they just wipe their nose with their hands and run it all over the place. I still have not gotten a flu shot. And Dr. Tripp's office, of course, is recommending that you get your flu shot this year and telling us that, all of those worries about the vaccines, especially all those who are now called older Americans. I don't know how I got to be one, but I got here really fast. Probably not a bad idea. And I've been planning on going to go get the thing for 2 weeks, and I haven't done it. And then you go to church. See, you spend all of this time ensuring that you're wiping down that grocery cart, you're washing your hands whenever you run into the bathroom or kitchen at work. I'm constantly doing that. But you go to church, and everyone wants to shake your hand. The traditional greeting takes place usually in the middle of my service, but now we've added this greeting often at the very beginning of the service. And I like shaking people's hands and smiling and saying, peace be with you. But I got to tell you something. At some point, you've likely, and I've read this, where people will, how many hundreds of times during a day, people aren't even aware that they touch their eyes or their nose. And because of that, and, normally I can't, it's an hour before I can go wash my hands afterwards. And I don't really think about washing my hands on the way out because one bathroom and there's usually a line. And I'm not the oldest person there, so I tend to defer to the people who might have. Well, as you get older, I was talking about this earlier, I know too much information, but you get to the point where you realize that what you're going through at the age of 53 is nothing compared to that guy at 73. So, the Christian thing is let him go first. So I usually just run out, jump into the truck and leave, and then run off to the grocery store, and then, as I say, wipe my hands when I get there and wipe down the cart. But I've already had my hands on the steering wheel. When I come back out, do you realize it's so dang difficult to take care of yourself any longer? They've got us so worried that whatever is going to happen, we're all going to die from MRSA or one of these other terrible bugs out there, that we're constantly running around scrubbing ourselves, and then we worry when we don't have a chance to do it. Coming up on 9:49, Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX and NewsRadio1310.com. Shortly, Mike Gallagher, brought to you exclusively by the financial advisors at Waddell & Reed in Twin Falls. Telephone number there, 736-6563. I wanted to quickly share this. Bernie Sanders was in Las Vegas yesterday at an open borders conference. And he says, while not opposed to open borders, he believes companies are using illegal aliens to lower wages. Although he says, I'm not a racist like some of my fellow candidates, referring to some people who are in the Republican Party. I want to share a little bit about that with you coming up before we break the show today. But in the meantime, as I said, Mike Gallagher will be along. Gallagher is in the Holy Land right now. I understand he's doing some travel over there with Salem Radio, which the name obviously comes from the Christian backing of that network. They do a lot of Christian programming as well as conservative talk radio. But he is over there and perhaps will give us another update today. Gee Willikers, was anybody around in 1850? No. But see, somebody who looked like you 300 years ago was mean to somebody that looked like them 300 years ago, so therefore you're supposed to bow down and do the mea culpa. Did you hear the story? Gallagher talking about President Obama. Did you know that President Obama, he was trying to rule by fiat? Yes, the Holy Muslim Emperor Barack Hussein Obama wanted to stop deportations of illegal immigrants and ignore the law in this country. And the court yesterday said, no, you cannot do that. Now he says he's going to appeal. I guess he realized if he decided he was going to go ahead and try to cram it down everyone's throats and say, well, I am the emperor, and whatever Michelle says goes, because she really wears the pants in the Obama White House. 9:55, Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. I was telling you just before the break, there's a conference on illegal immigration. Really, it's an open borders conference being hosted by a great many lefties, taking place currently in Las Vegas, Nevada. 2 days ago, Martin O'Malley went there and groveled before the people who are holding this event. Bernie Sanders yesterday, socialist Bernie Sanders. Then he mentioned he was not opposed to open borders, but he said he's sick to death of these people competing with Americans for jobs and allowing American businesses to lower wages for everyone because of the competition from illegal aliens. That's coming from Bernie Sanders. You're saying, geez, I'm shocked. I didn't realize that he had those types of views. But then he went on to say, however, please don't confuse me with that racist Donald Trump.
What I do not respect are people like Donald Trump who are appealing to racism and xenophobia to win votes. That is unacceptable.
Oh, how dare he? You know, I said it before. Donald Trump said some people coming from Mexico are rapists and murderers. Some. Now, if a guy shoots dead a woman on a pier, and he's been, by the way, deported multiple times and convicted of crimes multiple times, he shoots down a woman dead on a pier in San Francisco, then exactly what Donald Trump said, some are rapists and murderers, in this case a murderer, some, then Donald Trump is correct. I've brought this up before. Donald Trump did not say each and every one, all. Donald Trump said some. And if what happened to Kate Steinle is an example, then we have Exhibit A. We have evidence. Some are murderers. In fact, I was reading the other day that among those people Mr. Obama has let out of prisons over the course of the last several weeks or months, that on average, I think it's every 12 days, one of those people has gone out and committed a homicide. Oh, well, when we hear about a shooting at a school, the gun control people always scream, one death is too many, therefore we're going to take your firearms away. All right. If Jose then goes out and murders my neighbor, how come I can't say that is one too many? How come we have to allow that to continue? Meanwhile, there was that ad about those potty-mouthed kids that were screaming about Donald Trump being a meanie. He was asked about this last night on Fox News by Sean Hannity. I want you to take a listen for a minute.
I think it's sad, it's pathetic, it's been horribly received. People that actually were somewhat opposed to me are now big fans of mine. They thought it was a disgrace that an ad like that could take place, that they'd use that kind of language with children. They think the people that frankly put them up probably are, like many of our politicians, incompetent, because it's a virtually incompetent ad. But to use children with that kind of language is disgraceful. I've actually gotten a lot of support because of those ads.
Well, why would liberals care about a bunch of potty-mouthed children screaming about Donald Trump and teaching them to curse and swear? Because, after all, liberals want to send little boys into little girls' rooms. And liberals, according to this conference going on in England, this pedophilia conference, they want to have sex with your children. So, potty mouth, that's kind of minor in comparison to all of the other designs the liberals have. Bring them out so that we may know them. 9:59, Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. God willing, and the creek don't rise. I get to do this all over again tomorrow morning, Wednesday, between 8 and 10 o'clock. Rush Limbaugh will follow 10 o'clock news, in fact, from Fox in just a short while.